Right. So yeah, I'm Simon Oliver, design director, co-founder at Tennis.
My name is Marcello. I am the executive director at Tennis. We're a B2B web and product agency. All right, let's jump in.
Nice.
So we've been talking about CMSs. We're on episode 3 about just a very peripheral kind of review of CMS platforms
Yeah. What did we cover
and
last week?
categories. Last week we covered the different types of categories, which I think is like really and sort of touched a little bit on strengths. Um, Really good piece of content for anyone that is kind of has some questions around CMS platforms, which ones to use, why, what are the differences. So you should check out the previous episode first before continuing with this one. If that's what you're at, where you're at. If you understand, if you have a general basic understanding of all the categories and some of the strengths and weaknesses of CMS platforms, we're just diving in a little bit deeper today.
Yeah. Well, what do we? I think we're specifically looking at what you should look for and what to avoid in the CMS this week as part three, kind of building on our last week's episode. And this should wrap
Yeah.
everything up. Um,
Yeah.
I think it's important that we do a recap, even just a light recap in this
Yep.
episode of the different types that we covered. So
Yep. Go for it.
I'll start us off there. So we went through the and fill in any gaps that I might have because we did have to add an extra flavor last week.
Mhm.
So we've got traditional CMSs, which is your WordPress, your Drupal, your Joomla, which we thought was a ghost, but it is still out there.
Mhm.
And that's your like classic traditional handles content front end together all in one system. Usually has a lot of plugins. Then there's the headless CMS, which evolved like about a decade ago, which is where you store your content in a structured backend and deliver it to your front end via an API. A bit more complicated, but it does have its use cases. Then we've got your enterprise CMSs like your Adobe Experience Manager, your Sitecore, Sitefinity. Those are big, complex ecosystems that have workflows, strict governance, like serious power, but also serious licensing fees. Like I mentioned, Adobe Experience Manager is around 100K per year. Um, so those are the enterprise tiers. But Adobe Experience Manager inhabits the DXP realm as well, which we kind of got to in our last week's episode. Then there's the site builders, which are the Squarespaces and the Wixes, and some would argue Webflow. I would argue not Webflow because Webflow is a new category of the web experience platforms. So we'll get to that another day. But those site builders are things that give you the block level visual design tools, plus a CMS and hosting all baked into a managed platform. So you're usually paying for subscription fees rather than retainers or anything like that. And then the other one that you introduced last week, which I hadn't heard of, which was the visual development CMSs,
Mhm.
which is Framer would inhabit that category. It's kind of like a Figma style layout tool, but you can deploy your layouts as a website. Really powerful, something we're looking more into. And I'd definitely say that Framer's leading that category. Might really be the only one in that category, unless Figma Sites gets its act together. But I haven't heard anything about that in a long time. And then there's the DXPs, the digital experience platforms, like Content Stack that we briefly mentioned. And that's like personalization, content orchestration, analytics, multi channel delivery, something that we're pretty thin on in terms of like our understanding. So we probably won't cover it, but it is a category, at least to note. And then lastly, the specialty CMS platforms like Shopify for e-commerce, and then IMIS for things like
Yeah.
member management. What did you say it was an AMS,
AMS.
something
Association.
management system, member management system?
Yes.
Yeah,
Association is, I think it's
association.
specifically application management service. So we were way off.
Okay, I googled it and I got altered mental status. So
IMS is wait, is IMIS is an AMS, right?
IMIS is an AMS. Yeah. Um, yeah.
I mean, they do a lot.
Too
Yes.
many acronyms.
Part of what they do is membership management. Yeah.
It is an association management system,
Yes.
and I'm getting
System.
that
Yeah.
from IMS's website.
Okay.
So
Cool. Perfect.
it
I
is
keep
not
forgetting.
the
Yeah.
altered mental status.
Neither is it the application management service. Actually, I
No,
don't know why I thought that was accurate because we literally just talked about it. Membership service is very obvious, right?
well, we have a lot of acronyms and jargon to deal with
Yeah.
in our industry, so no one's going to fault us for that. So yeah, I don't think I missed any.
No, that's everything. Yeah.
Nice. So now that we've got the landscape, what what to look for in the CMS? I've got my list. I'm sure you got yours, and then I'm sure we can interweave like what to look for, what not to look for.
Yeah. Do we want to do what
Think
to look for, or do we want to do more of like a breakdown of like who's best suited for? I mean, I guess it's sort of the same thing. Uh,
yeah, I was
what to
thinking
look
about
for
that.
is almost like a decision tree versus just like talking about each CMS or category and giving some broad strokes in terms of like who's it best for, what are the pros, what are the cons, why would you choose it?
Totally, we can do that because yeah, I
Okay.
think this it's very different depending on the business or the product that you're running.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
some things might be more important to a startup
Yeah.
and less so to an enterprise because startups are they're not looking for longevity. They want speed, flexibility, cost, right? They don't want you to over
Prioritizing it.
engineer
Yeah.
out of the gate.
Yeah.
Whereas an enterprise, you would never put an enterprise in something like Framer because that'd
Yeah.
be absurd.
Let's start with the most simple ones. Did you include Wix and Squarespace in your or in any of your categories there?
Yep. Site
Yeah,
builders.
let's talk about those ones. Let's talk about
Site
site builders
builders,
first.
yeah. Site builders are an interesting area because I think that they apply a lot to the startup space and the really, really small business, but they could
Hmm.
also apply to organizations looking to quickly deploy landing pages. But I think that's becoming less so these days with things like Webflow because it has
Yeah.
all of that landing page architecture built in.
Hmm.
So I would draw a boundary around Squarespace and Wix as being you're either a really small business looking to get up and running quickly and you don't want the hassle of customization or all of the pains that unlimited flexibility brings you,
And you
go
don't
with
have a lot to
Squarespace and
manage,
Wix.
a lot of
Yeah.
content, features.
Yeah.
Um,
Out of those two, Wix is the more powerful one. Um, so yeah, small business
but I would
or
say I don't
startups.
feel like either of these are business products. I feel like they're consumer products. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
times when businesses get on them, um, especially if you're like a mid-sized business, it's usually by accident because there's just someone within the organization that's built the website on it, and there wasn't like a whole lot of foresight into the technology being used. And there's also usually a pretty quick runway before you're going to need to get off of it.
Yeah. Like you're
That's
saying they're going to
what
have
we
to
see.
switch soon.
Yeah, like guaranteed. You're a certain size business. So yeah, like very good for smaller organizations. It's fast, simple, low customization, um, but very inflexible. So
Yeah.
even if you're a smaller organization with potential, really, with some real big potential growth, like you're a startup or something, it's also, maybe it's suitable for you in the short term, but very quickly will not become viable.
Yeah. Which I think
So
is
that
the
that
point for the startup space too, is like you are looking for those short term wins.
Yeah, it
You're
depends
not
on the
looking at
business,
over
right?
engineering scalability.
Yeah, depends on the business too. If you're expecting significantly fast growth, like you may want to think ahead and not just go for something that's going to meet your goals in the short term and then have to redo everything in a year or something.
Yeah. If you're a startup with that level of foresight, and strategy, then I would just say go to Webflow. If you
Yeah.
are still unsure of that like if you're not sure, then yeah, I'd say the short-term wins with something like Squarespace and Wix are still pretty solid. But Webflow and Framer would be my standout choices for any startup because they have that speed,
Mm-hmm.
capability,
And
and
scale.
yeah, Framer less so scale,
Yeah,
Webflow
true. Yeah.
100% scalability.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And that's what Squarespace and Wix lack. Like as soon as you have to scale, you're you're done. Game over.
Okay, let's talk about traditional CMS.
Oh boy. All right. Let me Yeah, what have you seen out there
WordPress,
with our
Drupal, Joomla. I mean, Joomla and Drupal, we don't see that often. WordPress, we see a lot of. I would say that like most of the time we see WordPress, it's for organizations that might get off of WordPress. Um, I think the nearly every time actually, but most of the instances where a larger organization decides to stay with WordPress is because there's been a larger mandate within the organization and IT is managing a lot of different properties and they don't want a lot of platform diversity to manage. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
But
WordPress
WordPress
started as a
is
blog and content specific platform, right? So I think it's still
mhm.
great for that. SMB, mid-sized, content heavy. Um, security is a risk. The plugin library is a pro, but I guess also a con because um, that security risk and a lot of different people managing a lot of different pieces of technology attached to your website is a risk.
Yeah, exactly. The plugin sprawl, we call it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
we were just talking about this before this call, which is third-party tools extend your this cybersecurity domain calls it the attack surface, right?
Hmm.
The more plugins means like the more third parties you manage. If one plugin gets exploited, then that could take the rest of your system down and provide a pathway for bad actors. So plugin sprawl it doesn't just slow your website down, it can also be dangerous because it creates security issues. It also introduces a level of fragility with updates.
Hmm.
So there's additional maintenance because now you're maintaining plugins, um, updating plugins, which could then break the site. It's not even just the WordPress core.
Totally. Yeah, I was going to add
But
that. It's a platform that you probably need to be comfortable with having some sort of maintenance support attached to it, whether you're doing it internally or you're doing it with an external vendor. Kind of
mhm,
essential.
yeah, and I don't want to hate on WordPress because like some of our
Yeah,
clients are happy to be on WordPress, and we
totally.
do WordPress. So I think some of the benefits of it for those small medium companies is that when you install powerful tools like Elementor, like a block level page builder tool, you start getting closer to something that Webflow, Wix, Squarespace offer in terms of composing pages. And then you do have a rich ecosystem of plugins that you can install that extend the WordPress functionality. But the caveat is you do have to have the people to manage it. You need a retainer. Ideally, you go on something like WP Engine, which is a managed WordPress hosting provider in the cloud. And they're an interesting business model because they try to remove all the scary parts of WordPress. In order to install a plugin on WP Engine, it's vetted by WP Engine. So that removes the complexity and fear of that. They maintain updating the WordPress core. So going with something like WP Engine is probably the safest bet for working on WordPress.
Hmm.
Managing the build internally yourself, like some of the organizations, like mostly higher ed, I don't know. It's a big risk. Now you need a dedicated I team to maintain your WordPress instance. So
Mm.
it just complicates
And
things, right?
WordPress is still, I just looked this up. WordPress is still approximately 40+% of all websites on the internet.
Wow, that's gotten significantly lower though.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's actually
Wow.
as of 2025.
That's Yeah,
Webflow in
that's the
comparison
decline.
is roughly, I don't know how, this is 2025 stats too, roughly 0.8% of all websites globally. Still a
Wow,
tiny pool.
good stats though. What else?
Hmm.
What else you got there?
I don't know. What else are you interested in?
Drupal.
Word, Drupal? WordPress, roughly 480 million websites. Drupal is, 0.8% globally.
Wow. Okay.
Not that popular. That's probably why we
Yeah.
have rarely seen it. Um,
Yeah. Well, no, we've
yeah.
been seeing it last probably the last 6 to 8 months because it's from higher ed, right? All these higher ed
Yes,
calls
yes,
that we've
yes,
been
yes.
taking, even the cultural sector, we just migrated a gallery from Drupal to Webflow.
Yeah, yeah,
The reason we did that was because they were migrating, they were they had to update their Drupal version. So they went back to their previous developer, and their developer was like, "This is going to cost you $15,000 to update to the new version, and we can't guarantee that all of your previous functionality is going to work." So they came to us, and we were like, "Okay, we're going to migrate Drupal to Webflow, like one to one. This will be the first phase. We're going to do one to one, just so you have everything that you had before, none of the headache, for a fraction of that." And now they're on something that they can extend. They're
hmm
paying like 260 a year. So we do get a lot of requests to migrate from Drupal because people get trapped into that whole idea of open source being better. Open source really just means more overhead, more maintenance, less developer pool. Like
yeah, yeah,
really it's a concerning pattern that we've seen in the cultural and education sector. Drupal does exist, and when it comes to us, it is, can you please migrate us off of Drupal or
yeah.
tell us what it would cost to upgrade?
hmm So, what are some of the pros of Drupal? Like, why is it such a good fit for government, higher ed?
This is intentional radio silence. We don't get along.
Well, it's yeah. I mean, I
I don't
know
know.
it's like
I
it's
honestly
a
think they're
challenging
trapped.
platform, but
Literally have to
but
chat GPT
it
benefits of Drupal because
it
I
is
just don't
common
know
in
any
those
off the top of my
spaces.
head.
Yeah.
I think it's common because people have been trapped by the idea of open source. And like
hmm
I could do the research on this call for that, but that's my gut feel is
Yeah.
open source is this like North Star for some people because they think there's like all of these ethics bound up within it. There's this, I'm not going to get philosophical about it, but
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
idea of
No, I
open
got it.
source is that I own it, right? Therefore, it's better than being beholden to a private company like Webflow. That is like definitely wrong and problematic in so many reasons. And then
hmm
these organizations get stuck with these platforms and then end up building internal teams around it just to support it
Yeah.
and just to plug the holes. So you end up with organizations that have upskilled their IT with like 5 to 10 people maintaining their Drupal build. Was it the right decision? Who knows? It was made 15 years ago by someone who doesn't even work at the organization anymore.
hmm
So I don't know. I don't know what the benefits of Drupal are. If you have Drupal now and you have the team to support Drupal, amazing. You're doing better than the majority of people out there with Drupal. If you're making a decision to go with Drupal right now in this day and age, I would say you have better options out there.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go into the next
Well,
one.
did you look up benefits of Drupal during my rant?
I did. I
Not
did.
sure. Give them,
Because I also
give
couldn't
them to
think
me.
of like the details around why government specifically in higher ed you find a lot of Drupal. So strong permissions, security, scalability, structured content.
Okay,
So like if you
give
need
me a
really
break. Give me a
serious
break.
structure and long-term governance, then seems to be. But I mean, I guess like I mean you couldn't really say that about WordPress, but there's a lot of other options that you could say are, have strong permissions, workflows, security, scalability, structured content workflows. Like, so I don't know.
Literally the
Seems
enterprise
weak.
CMS tier. Like the
Yeah.
enterprise CMS tier has that baked in. That is literally the point.
Hmm.
So pay the licensing fees, which are some are just like 10,000 a year, 25,000 a year. Adobe Experience Manager is 100K per year, but let's like spend that for the licensing, have a smaller developer team, or implement Drupal and then build a 5 to 10 development team,
Yeah.
each with God knows what the salaries are, but
Yeah.
probably more than your licensing fees.
Oh, totally.
So I don't know. I think there's
Uh,
a lot of holes in this discussion and argument, but maybe that's a good segue to enterprise CMSs.
Is that what you want to tackle next? I think
I mean,
we should go to visual developers for development CMS first. Like
there's only one
Framer,
that I know of.
and
Yeah.
then Webflow, CMS, and then go to enterprise last.
All right, you got an order you want to tackle this. A visual
Well,
development CMS.
well, I think enterprise is like it's relevant for some specific audiences, and it's going to tackle things that probably the majority of people uh, are not relevant for a lot of people. But that's just an assumption. It seems to me that like going into Framer and Webflow next makes more sense because you can think about the comparisons to Drupal and WordPress versus going straight into enterprise.
Mhm. Yeah, well,
Um,
visual. Basically, it's Figma, but instead of just sharing prototypes as screens, you're deploying your screen as an interactive website, like built with code, deployed as code.
mhm,
One of the reasons that people go with Framer is because it has a really rich animation system, which, as you know, has been a big pain point online. And everyone wants animations. Animations are great. Like they really add that level of taste and character to a web experience. But it's really good for landing pages and really small sites. So a
mhm,
designer doing a portfolio website, or a startup doing a one pager, or a startup doing landing pages, I would say Framer is an amazing fit for that because it's likely that their design team, the UI UX people, because they're capable in Figma, would be able to bridge into Framer very quickly,
yeah,
but also upskill quickly if they don't have Framer knowledge, but they probably do these days.
mhm. That makes sense.
Yeah, it just
Um,
lacks like the CMS capabilities. I know they're trying to build that in right now, and it's cool, but it's not as robust as something like Webflow,
yeah,
in my opinion.
that's a good segue into Webflow.
Yeah. So yeah, Webflow definitely it's like the darling of our agency. We've been certified Webflow experts probably for the last 6 years, I think. And that platform has grown drastically. Like every quarter, they're releasing a new feature that helps agencies and clients alike push things like SEO, AEO, the AI equivalent of SEO, or just manage their data better. So
Mhm.
Webflow's categorizing themselves as a web experience platform.
Yeah.
It's cool. They're trying to own a brand new category, and it has the hosting, the visual page builder aspect built in, as well as the content management stuff built in as well. So you can deploy articles, product databases, really anything with their CMS. And the cool thing about their CMS is that let's say let's say you want to add a new field for a product type. The marketing person can go in there and add that field in the CMS and then immediately connect it to the front end, like painlessly. So now you have marketers using what seems like a very complicated tool, but they're just clicking through, adding fields, adding them to the front end. So the way Webflow's chosen to deal with data, I'd say is one of its standout points. But they've been going on an acquisition spree over the last 2 years. They acquired Webflow Optimize, which was a tool dedicated for optimizing your Webflow code, front end, SEO, all of that. So they acquired that company and started baking in those features. That's why we have all of this AEO stuff now. They acquired GSAP, which is GSAP. If you remember, they are to this day the animation framework that runs web. All complex animations, SVG animations, any rich animation stuff is GSAP.
Yeah.
Webflow acquired them and then baked in the entire GSAP subscription and code base into Webflow.
Mm.
So I don't know what they're going to acquire next, but they're
Yeah.
growing rapidly. Their pricing makes sense. They've added an enterprise tier to their model as well. It's not cheap. I think last I checked, it is about 100K USD per year, but it's for those heavy hitting companies. Like, we're talking massive multinational brands that need to manage landing pages, microsites,
Yeah. Makes
regionalization,
sense.
localization.
Okay. Two left. Headless CMS platforms. Contentful, sanity, strappy. I mean, we talked a
Ugh.
little bit about this last time when we got offline the last conversation. So multi-platform content, companies that have apps, web, SaaS. What else could they have? Point of sale, maybe. Would that work?
Yeah,
That
point of
doesn't make sense.
sale. I mean, it's more of an integration,
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
say.
So basically, just pushing content to multiple platforms.
Yeah, exactly. Like you could have 3 different front ends for
Yeah,
3 different countries, but they all have the same data source. It's like your entire content store is in a structured backend
yeah, yeah,
delivered through APIs. So,
yeah,
it's like choose your own front end kind of thing
yeah. So that's the
with some of
minimum
them.
requirement, basically, if someone's curious about headless. Like, it just doesn't even make sense for you unless you're operating that kind of ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly. Like a massive multinational product catalog would be an excellent use case for
Yeah,
headless CMS.
yeah,
A microsite, definitely not. You're going to
no,
be going through infinite headaches and like 10x the development costs and
yeah.
maintenance.
Okay, let's do the last one, enterprise and DXP together.
All right, enterprise. Yeah, so we already mentioned them a bit, but like Sitecore, Sitefinity, AEM, Adobe Experience Manager, they're really good just for, I'd say, their governance and workflows.
Hmm.
They've got a lot of these content approval workflows built in, very strict governance. So if you have one team managing the product catalog, for example, you can restrict them to just that. But then you can get really granular. What are you going to allow someone to update? Something like pricing? Well, maybe that's just one person that can
Yeah,
do pricing. Okay. And then they do the pricing and it still needs to go up the chain for approvals. So the workflows can be more customized and dialed in. And this is really important for
and decision making
governments.
can be centralized.
Yeah. And that's why I think you know, part of the Ontario government is using Adobe Experience Manager because
Mm,
deploying that content requires these strict governance and workflows.
yeah. Also very
All of these
expensive,
things,
all of this.
all of it is very,
Which
very
obviously it
expensive.
makes sense because it scales with complexity and with the size of the organizations that they're targeting
Yeah.
and built for.
But I think there's a cost benefit too. Like we were saying with the Drupal builds, maybe you go an enterprise CMS because it's $10,000 a month licensing, but your development team, maybe you only need like 3 to 5 people.
Yeah,
Whereas you go with Drupal and you try to do the same thing with it, maybe you need 5 to 10 people maintaining it and maintaining it for all the wrong reasons.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's important to add that we are vastly simplifying everything here. And that's a great comment because a big part of what we do is basically come in as part of the technology procurement part of this, and to help make those business decisions based on total cost of ownership. So, comparing your running costs, licensing costs, all of these things before making any recommendations is more complex than just saying this is the best fit for you because of the features. It's not always. It's not only about features and ability. It's
Hmm.
also about cost, how much it's going to cost you, and how much it's actually potentially going to save you. So there's usually a best fit, not an exact fit, right? Like you're always kind of looking for what is the best fit.
Yeah, totally. And that's why we call ourselves technology agnostic, because like when you come in, we look at your problem, we frame the problem around your marketing, your operations, people using these tools, and the intent of the project, and then we help you choose that best fit rather than just
Mm-hmm.
saying, well, we're a WordPress shop, so let's build
Yeah,
WordPress only. And
totally.
there are
Yeah, it
shops
doesn't
like
work
that.
like that. Yeah.
No, it doesn't. It's there's niche agencies like that, but we've explicitly decided not to niche ourselves in a particular type of technology.
Yes. Yeah. Because it's all more complicated
Hmm.
than just going in and recommending something without understanding the business case behind it.
Yeah.
Business case, the usability case, all of it. All right.
Yeah, I'd say like the editor experience is one of the biggest things that we
Yeah.
talk about in those early days. Like, what is it going to be like for your marketing team to be editing and maintaining the content? Because
Mm-hmm.
if it's exhausting, or if you have to contact a developer to do it, then it's not checking the right boxes.
Mm-hmm.
There might be some instances like a headless where you do need to involve a developer. It's a conscious effort to defining that scope and figuring out like where the cost benefit is.
Makes sense. That's a good place to call it. It's a bit of a
Nice. Well,
longer
we
one,
didn't cover
but
DXPs.
oh right.
Did you want
I
to
thought
do
we talked about it.
DXPs?
Yeah,
Because I
let's do
said
that.
I don't know anything about them.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, well, maybe we'll save that.
Yeah, let's save it for
Yeah,
we'll do a redux when we learn about what a DXP is.
yeah, totally. All right, cool. Yeah,
Awesome. All right, take it easy.
bye.
Bye.